We've had the 2019 Holden Equinox LTZ as our long-term car for 6 months now. The medium SUV has seen over 8,000 kilometres of city and country driving. But before we say goodbye to it, let's find out what the rest of the CarAdvice team thought of it. Before we get to that, some final thoughts on Pablo the Equinox. Its 2-litre turbo petrol engine is a standout and has enough power to surprise you. Meanwhile, backseat passengers are the winners, with stacks of room, connections galore and even heated seats to keep them happy. Up front, Holden's MyLink infotainment system is quick in response and is easy to navigate around. However, the Equinox is let down by its terrible turning circle, bizarre vibrating seat parking sensors, rough ride and polarising exterior design. Therefore, it is perhaps best suited to country driving rather than the city. But I could be proven completely wrong. This is what the rest of the CarAdvice crew thought of it.
The main positives, I think, with the Equinox are the fact it's really spacious. The back seats in the boot are just massive compared to some other mid-sized SUVs, and if you've got a family, that's really important. I also think the engine is a major positive. It's far more powerful than just your normal mid-sized SUV has, and that means when you've got a full family on board and a whole lot of gear, it just feels much punchier. It's almost fun to drive off the line.
In general, like when you look at it on paper, the Equinox it's the right size. In LTZ spec, it's got a heap of equipment, so it looks impressive when you kind of approach it from the spec sheet angle.
My general thought on the Equinox is that it's kind of an underappreciated package. It's not necessarily people's first choice in the medium SUV segment. A lot of people will flock to things like the CX-5 or a Hyundai Tucson because they're pretty, they're compact, and they're very good value, whereas I think the Equinox is often overlooked. It's very spacious, it's quite good value for money, it's got a really powerful engine, and is genuinely quite nice to drive.
I think generally for the Equinox, the things I really liked about it are that it's such a better car to drive than you would expect looking at it. It's kind of a bit of a generic old man style to look at, but it is a really dynamic car to drive, and that's such a point of appeal for me.
I don't like so much the way in the city the power delivery is really abrupt, so you can't actually drive it smoothly, which is annoying if you're in stop-start traffic. And I just think that interior is too confronting. There's just too many buttons, too much going on, and it's not intuitive enough to kind of just jump in and feel at home with.
What don't I like? I think it's ugly. For one, there's just not much about the looks that does anything for me, and I think although the interior is very practical and very spacious, it's just a little bit sort of cheap in the way it's put together. It doesn't feel like it's been put together with love in the way that some other mid-sized SUVs or some of its rivals do. So it's a bit dull, both to look at inside and out, but that's not taking away from its practicality.
There are plenty of things I don't like about it, however. The styling stands out as the main thing. Infotainment is the other. We've seen a newer form of GM infotainment in the Acadia, and the Equinox still has Holden's older style, so not great. Other than that, I honestly think there aren't too many things to not like about the Equinox.
What don't I like about the Equinox? I think there's a few things that could be improved. I think that the cabin quality could be improved a little bit. I noticed that there was a few rattles and squeaks during our time with the car. I think there's maybe too many hard plastics given what rivals are like inside, but I think that it's still a pretty good package.
I think the most surprising thing for me about the car is it's a real sort of performance package, and you don't expect to say that about a big Holden SUV, let alone any SUV. And the 9-speed auto and 2-litre turbo engine, they've just got so much punch and really quick off the line as well, and really sort of linear as well. So pretty happy with that.
I've been surprised by how many people don't know what an Equinox is. A lot of people will look at it and go, oh, what's that? And they don't know what it actually represents for Holden, which is a little bit concerning for Holden because it's a really important car for the brand. I've also been surprised by how everyone's been so impressed with the drive. I personally wasn't expecting it to drive as well and to ride as well and to handle as well as it does. And I think it's been really interesting seeing how everyone who has driven this car has come back and always been impressed.
What surprised me about the Equinox is just how nice it is to drive. That engine is just so responsive, the steering's really well weighted. It rides a little firmer than maybe I'd like, but it's still very livable. It's super practical. I think families will love the fact that there's so much room in the back for kids, teenagers. You could fit 3 across the back for a decent stretch of time without having too many complaints, and there's just so much room in the boot for all your stuff. So I think that it's just a really, really good option for people that are carting around kids and all their luggage.
I think the most surprising thing about it is that it's a born open road tourer. You could literally get in and spend hours behind the wheel, and it's comfortable and quiet and would do that so easily, which I guess, is the way an SUV should be, but you think perhaps a little bit more urban for these kinds of vehicles, and realistically this is a cross-country tourer.
I think compared to a lot of its rivals, it's much better fit for purpose. The fact it's spacious, it's comfortable, and it's got a bit of punch, what more can you ask for in a big family car?
I think if you're looking at it from the angle of a family, I think it's a perfect fit for most people. I know that a lot of older buyers don't necessarily care about having semi-autonomous assists and things like that. It's super practical, it drives really well, and it does everything that you need compared to some of its rivals that are a little bit more luxurious inside now and they have a bit more tech. That's probably where it falls down, but I think that it's still definitely a viable option and a car that people should definitely consider.
Ultimately, I do think it's fit for purpose. I mean, it is big enough to pack a family into. It does have plenty of boot space. It is powerful when you need it to be. It's quiet when you'd like it to be. If you're going to check off those sorts of things, it does them all really well.
As a family car, it's really quite fit for purpose. There's plenty of room in the back. The boot is fairly good size for a medium SUV. Some outdo it, but most don't, and I think that's a really good upside for it. And it's got a really good seating position as well. So as a family car, you really can't ask for more.
Well, there you go. It's been one hell of a ride with the Equinox, where it's been loved by some, but not by others. There really is nothing quite like the Holden Equinox, and whether that's a good thing or not, I'll leave that up to you.